Hey everyone, welcome back to another Plan With Me video, and today I'm setting up my sister's bullet journal for June with Goldfish theme. I'm pretty excited to show you the process with this setup because I like how the layouts and paintings turned out. If you haven't seen my own bullet journal theme for June, I uploaded a video previously and make sure to check it out if you haven't already. The link to the video will be up here on the cards and on the description box. And don't forget to subscribe and tap on the bell so you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. I'm still working on her Archer and Olive notebook, and as I mentioned, I will be painting again for her next monthly spreads using watercolors. The links to the supplies and discount codes are listed on the video description as well. Jumping right into the painting, the first step is to determine the main shape of the goldfish without the fins and tail, and it is easy to see an oval shape. So for the body of the goldfish, we just painted a bit stretched out oval shape with yellow, but we are also making the belly a bit curvy. The angle of the goldfish in this painting slanted down towards the bottom right of the page. Position the body in the center so that we will have more room to paint the fins and tail. We painted the top fin, bottom fin, and side fins, and lastly is the tail, which I like to look a little flowy. Then it's time to build our painting. We're going to take an orange color. Again, I like to build my watercolor paintings in this paper slowly and be able to create soft blends between colors since it absorbs the paint or water quickly, unlike using a real watercolor paper. So we just layered the orange color from the end of its body to the spine and around the head. Then we're going to drag the paint towards the middle until it creates a soft look. We also define the gills and outline the eyes, and while we wait for this layer to dry, we can work on the fins and tail as well. Using the same orange, we are shading the inner parts, and with a detailed brush, we are filling them in with thin lines. Then we will go back to paint the eyes with black. Now I'm using a white gel pen to draw the scales. You may begin drawing rows of scales from near the tail and working towards large scales of the goldfish, or vice versa. To create a sense of depth and dimension, make the lines curvy slightly to enhance the shape of the goldfish body. Then follow the same direction of the gills as you go around. In my case, the scales towards the tail was kind of messy, so if you don't mind the messiness, then that would be cool, but if you can make it accurate, then that would be great too. I also highlighted the gills, fins, and tail with white gel pen. To define the scales a little bit, I loaded my small brush again with orange and filled in some of the areas between the scales on the center, and we are done with our goldfish. Let's move on to the background, which are seaweeds. You will just want to start with a lighter shade of green and paint these long, wavy strips of leaves. Then with a darker green, add some shading to the inner parts and to create separation between two seaweeds. You can also play around with the positions or angles and make them flowy as well. You will notice here that I kind of made the positions balanced to the position of the goldfish tail, and I think the composition looks good. The last element here are water bubbles. Just paint round shapes with blue and try to paint them in different sizes. Then just paint a darker shade of blue around the bottom to create dimension. Next, we are writing the June title on the bottom left. It's just some sort of modern lettering, and I used my black pigment micron to write it. The last thing here is this simple frame around the illustration, and that is our cover page all done. I also like to create a little quote page next to the cover, so let's work on that by painting a smaller version of seaweeds. This time we're painting 5 leaves, and don't be afraid to play around with the angles. Try to make the leaves curving or bending to make it look interesting and make it seem like they're dancing, because that is what they look like in real life underwater. Above it is where we're going to hand letter the quote, which is "Swim in your own direction." When lettering your quotes or titles, I recommend sketching them out first with a pencil so you can map out well the distance of each letter, how big the letters would be, the placements, and the margins. I think for this quote, I had to sketch it out 3 times until I find a composition that I like. Then I just painted some bubbles here as well and a line frame to tie everything together. And that's it for this cover and quote spread for June. I think it turned out cute and cohesive, but let's flip that over and keep on moving because next up we're going to make this calendar page. For this one, we are going to do a super minimal calendar layout. All we're gonna do is draw horizontal lines. If you would prefer a grid, that would be awesome too. The lines have 21 spaces, so each day has 3, and then each line is 4 spaces apart. Just simply write the days and dates, and then we are writing the June title again on top of the page using the same fonts. Start by outlining the letters and block it out with a black pen, and then we're going to paint some small underwater doodles. We have seaweeds and coral reefs, and several blue bubbles as well. The bubbles were quite large here though. I wish I painted them a bit smaller, but that is our simple calendar page. Let's move on to the right where we are making the habit trackers page. Again, this layout is super simple. I am drawing 6 boxes for each habit tracker, and I'm leaving a room on the middle where we can paint another illustration. Then we are writing the habits title at the bottom this time. Now let's focus on the illustration for this spread. We're painting another goldfish, and this time on a different angle. We're painting the seaweeds first, that is in front of the goldfish. The picture looks like the goldfish is passing by. I also wanted to share that it's completely okay if you want to draw or paint the same design in your bullet journal spreads. For some, it might look boring to see the same design in your themes, but for some, especially for those who are just starting out with bullet journal, most of them get overwhelmed seeing spreads full of drawings and paintings, just like my own bullet journal, for example. And for that reason, they think that a bullet journal needs to be full of art, which is not true, and in the end, they get discouraged to actually try and start. I'm also not saying that it's not okay to make elaborate spreads, because that's actually what my own bullet journal looks like. So I'm glad that my sister allowed me to create her spreads on her bullet journal in a simpler approach and beginner friendly as much as possible. She doesn't really mind whether the spreads have simple drawings or decorative. She appreciates it, but most important is the functionality. Bottom line is that create spreads according to your needs and use it how you wish. We painted some seaweeds, a goldfish behind, and water bubbles around. I think this layout is very achievable, especially if you also want to incorporate some watercolor paintings in your spreads. We have one last spread to make in this video, and that is her first weekly spread. We are drawing the layout first. Using the color palette we used in the paintings, I painted round shapes for the background of the dates, and then we're drawing vertical boxes for the dailies. I only drew one box for the weekends. I think these are 8 spaces wide, and you can make them as tall as you would like. If you follow the same measurements, we can write out what week it is. Here I just wrote W1 or week 1 as the first week of the month, and then a little section for notes on the right hand side. Then we can place a mini calendar here, and since we have a space here that is quite empty, we're going to do a simple painting of another aquatic plant. So we're outlining a long main branch here and then a shorter one next to it. Then we'll paint long thin leaves. We are also painting them with kind of wavy manner as if they're swaying, and make sure that the leaves on the back are darker than the ones on the front. Now let's paint one last illustration on the left side, and yes, you guessed it right, it's another goldfish, and this time it is swimming upwards. I also want to make this a little cuter than the previous ones. I was trying my best to achieve that, but I guess it was just so hard for me, especially when it comes to the eyes. And to my little knowledge about goldfish, what I painted here is the common type of goldfish. So if you prefer painting different types of goldfish like lionhead goldfish, celestial, dragon eye, and so on in a goldfish themed bullet journal setup like this, that would also be great. But you can always practice one type at a time and get yourself familiar with it, and practice other types as you progress. It's also my first set of goldfish practice paintings, so I'm glad to be able to execute it like this. But yeah, I also painted seaweeds behind and water bubbles. I also forgot to add bubbles on the plant to the right side, but I just added that after filming. Okay, that is all for this June 2022 bullet journal setup for my sister. I think this setup is really cute and all ready for summer. If you love goldfish, then this theme is perfect for you, accompanied with very minimal spread layouts. If you like this monthly bullet journal tutorial, please give it a like and remember to support the channel by simply subscribing so you won't miss my next tutorials. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fun month of June, and I will talk to you soon in my next one. Bye, friends.